All right. Thank y'all for inviting us tonight. We enjoy telling stories. Storytelling has been used for entertainment, communication, in all different ways during all our generation of the human race. I want to ask a question to start off with tonight. How many of y'all have ever raised a garden, a vegetable garden, or any kind of farm or gardening? We have. Well, I'll ask another question then. How many of you have ever plowed a mule? All right, we got 1, 2, 3. All right, we're in the ball game tonight, folks. Well, I've always had a garden all my life, except where I live at now. There's only 2 places to have a garden, and both of them on the side of 2 big old steep hills beside my house. Well, on that first hill, I planted my early garden, like English peas, iced potatoes, and onions. But on a dry year, it just dries up. It doesn't do anything because the only way I've got to water it is just a water hose. No pressure, folks. And I just lose my garden. Well, I got the idea, I'm going to call my friend up there in the mountains. He always had a beautiful garden on the side of one of those mountains. So I told him my situation. My stuff was drying up. He said, that's no problem. I said, how so? He said, well, if you plant your peas, your iced potatoes, and your onions at the very top, you won't have no problem. I said, well, why in that order? He said, on a dry year, them onions are going to put out some kind of odor. And that's going to make them eyes on them iced potatoes start weeping, and it'll water the rest of your garden, folks. Try it, it works. That other hill's where I plant my corn at. It's so steep I fell off of it 3 times trying to get it broke up. But anyway, I got it broke up, and I said, how am I going to get up there and plant my corn? I'm always thinking, new ideas. I started putting my corn in my shotgun, shooting it up there. Boom, boom. I didn't get no stand whatsoever. I come to the conclusion that my barrel on my shotgun was just too short. I needed a longer barrel. So I go out to the outhouse, and I call Sears and Roebuck Kellogg. That's what kind of gun it was, Sears and Roebuck. And I get a young lady on there, and I explain my situation about how I need a longer barrel to plant my corn with. She put me on hold for at least 10 minutes. Finally, she come back, got snickering a little bit. She said, Mr. Bolton, I think we've got your problem solved. I said, how so? Mr. Bolton, we've got this long 36-inch goose barrel with a poly choke on the end of it. I said, ma'am, I haven't got time to send to France to get nothing polyed. I need to get my corn planted next week. Oh, that poly choke is made right here in the United States, and it's made to just, you turn it to whatever pattern shot. Well, in your case, how much corn you want to plant? I said, well, send me 2 of them rice. I should have had my corn planted yesterday. I get them in the mail, and I get one on my gun, and I put me about 2 pounds of Silver Queen corn in there. I put me 3 shells, and I commence to shooting. Boom, boom, boom. Folks, I run through about half a box of shells and probably about 20 pounds of Silver Queen corn. But from then on, I had a good stand of corn. Well, I used to work my garden with a mule and a Dixie plow. Up one row and back the other. Worked pretty good. But I made the mistake of loaning my mule to my neighbor down the road who happens to be the local moonshiner. He rode my mule to his still that very night. Today, my neighbor's in the pen, the shine is property state, and my mule's in Washington. How did this mule get in Washington? Some of them local politician down in Richmond County put his name in the hat, and he won a seat on the U.S. Congress up there today. Now he's up there with all the rest of them jackasses. So I don't know what to do about it. Well, I had to have me a mule to plow my garden with. But a good mule, a live mule, is hard to find. So I bought me one of mechanical mules. You walk behind, it's got a little wheel in the front and a plow and a big old wheel in the back. That thing worked good till I got to the end of my rows. It didn't know the difference between G, a ha, a left, a right, or stop, or whatever. It just went on over through the bushes. And I didn't want to lose this mule. So I held on real tight. It run me through a briar patch, a big old hollow log, had a bear, 2 rabbits, and a hive of bees in it. When I come out, I had rabbit fur, bear grease, and wild honey dripping all over me. And them bees was popping me pretty good, folks. They was tearing me up. I didn't know nothing to do but run this mechanical mule through the creek at the bottom of the hill. By the time I got to the creek, the curve of the creek kind of goes out and it gets deep down there. They was having a baptizing down there. And that preacher just put one of them converts on there. He said, I baptize you in the name of the Father and the Son. And he seen me and said, what in the world? He liked to drown that poor fellow. I thought that mechanical mule was going to choke out or just cut off there in that creek, but it didn't. Out of the creek, up one hill, down the other, up one hill, down the other, up one hill. And we started up that hill, and there was a CSX railroad track coming around it. And you guessed it, coming around the bend of it, that freight train was carrying the mail. Well, I knew that we was going to have some kind of collision there. I pulled back on that thing. I was trying to stop it. I was trying to... Only by the mercy of God, that mechanical mule run out of gas about 6 inches before he got to that railroad track. Woo! Folks, I won't never so glad to see a train go by all my life. I got the rubbing the sweat off my head, just doing all kind of stuff, looking around. But I was lost. I ain't never been in this section of woods before. I looked around, but that didn't make no difference where I was lost, because I knew I had my redneck GPS system in my back pocket. Y'all know what a redneck GPS system is? Guide possum on a string. I pulled that little possum out of my back pocket. I tied some biker twine around his neck and set him on the ground. He led me right out to the nearest road. But I'm going to tell you a little safety feature on this, folks. Turn that possum loose before he gets to the road. He'll get you run over every time. You know, I pay $15 a bag for fertilizer. The Indians use fish. Didn't cost them nothing. People spend $50,000, $100,000 on a tractor to work the garden. The Indians use their wives. Now, whether that cost them anything, I don't know. I have come to the conclusion, though, that raising a garden and making moonshine is a lot alike. The moonshine, you know, you got to plant your corn, you got to build your steel, you build your fire, and you'll run you off a couple of gallons. And that night, them revenue will move in. They'll boom, 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 drink what they want to, boom, and blow up the rest. Well, you have your garden and all coming out. You've done a lot of work to your garden. You go out there next morning and say, I'm going to pick me a bushel of peas tomorrow. I'm going to pull me a dozen ears of corn. Well, that night, them deers, voles, moles, coons, the next morning, like took a bush hog to it. There ain't nothing left. I was up there working on one of them big hills in my garden, kind of cleaning it up, and here come my neighbor up the hill. Now, I'm not calling no names, but he's kind of lazy, but he did come up there. He said, Jay, you got the cleanest garden I most ever seen. So what do you use to keep it so clean? I said, well, you can buy it at hardware. You can buy it at Lowe's. He said, how do you spell it? I said, H-O-E, ho. A lot of people got them, but ain't many people use them. Folks, I'm going to tell you another story now. My wife and I, we got married. I forgot to tell you the name of the story. The story is Here's Why, and I'll tell you why at the end of the story. My wife and I got married, and both of us had lived on a farm. We moved to the bright lights of Elbit by a little village north of Rockingham. Didn't have room for hardly park your car, much less have a garden. But my wife, she liked to have potted plants. You know, she'd take them out and inside and out according to the weather, stuff like that. Well, I come in from work one day, and she said, you go in there and take a bath. I said, I about got supper ready. I said, why are you doing that? I'm going to get in my potted plants because the weatherman's calling for cool weather tonight. Well, I go out and start taking them clothes off and everything, getting ready to get in the bathtub. She goes out and gets her first two pots of plant. She comes in and sets them right beside the heater vent right inside the door. She starts out to get some more, but what she didn't know, there was this little snake in the first one she set in there. She continued to bring the plants in. That little snake, he got the feeling so good. He crawls right out in the middle of the floor. Here comes my wife with the last two potted plants. She seen that snake, drops both of them right in the middle of the floor. Well, I had just got in the bathtub now, naked as a jaybird. I heard that blood-curdling scream. I knew that something had to be done. I run out and said, what is it? What is it? What is it? She said, there's a snake. There's a snake. He crawled up under the couch. I seen him. I said, you sure, woman? Yeah, I seen him. Here I get on my all fours. Naked. You can picture this. You get on. I was looking all around for that snake. By that time, old dog come blue, done cold nosed me around the rear end. I thought that snake had bit me. I was rolling over on the floor, My wife thought I was having a heart attack. She called EMT. Here comes EMT. Mr. Bolton, get on that stretcher. We're going to check you out for a heart attack. I'm not having no heart attack. All this excitement, Mr. Bolton, and you need to get checked out. Finally, they persuaded me to get on that stretcher. Here they go out the door with that stretcher. By that time, here comes that little snake again. One of them EMT dropped one end of the stretcher, and that's when I broke my leg. Well, they took me on to the hospital. My wife, she was hysterical. Her husband in the hospital, and there was a snake in the house. Woo! She didn't know nothing to do, but she called my next door neighbor over there. She said, can you come get this snake out of my house? Here he comes. He arms himself with a rolled up newspaper, and he comes, he looks all around here. He said, ma'am, all this excitement, don't you reckon that snake crawled out of the house? I don't see no snake. Well, that kind of pacified my wife pretty good. She sat down on the couch, and you know when you sat down, your fingers kind of filled her through the cushions like that? Oh, she felt that snake, and she just passed out on the couch. My next door neighbor had never seen an unconscious woman before. He didn't know nothing to do but mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Just so happened, though, his wife had been up to the local grocery store. And here she come down the sidewalk with 2 big bags of canned goods. And she looked in our door. What did she see? She saw what she thought was her husband kissing my wife. She runs in on a jealous rage and cold cocks him right on the back of the head. He just rolled out on the floor, blood running out of his head. That woke my wife up. She looked down, seen her neighbor down, seen all that blood. She thought the snake had bit him. She runs in the kitchen, gets a bottle of cooking sherry. You know, the cooking sherry is supposed to have alcohol in it. You know, it's supposed to be good for a snake bite. She comes in and pours all his ears, down his mouth, and his eyes and everything. Well, doing all this excitement, somebody had called Barney and Andy, the local cops. Here they come in the house, assessing the situation. They smelled alcohol, and they seen that guy laying on the floor with blood coming out of his head. They thought there'd been a drunken brawl, and they was going to arrest everyone. But my wife finally told them they all over a little snake. Well, they called EMT, and they come got my neighbor and his wife. They went to the hospital. And they said, Miss Bolton said, if you have any more problems, said, you just give us a call. We'll be right back. They start out the door. Here comes that little snake again. One of the police officers pulls out his service revolver. Boom! Shoots at the snake, but he missed him. He did hit the leg of the end table, had this great big lamp on it. But the end table fell toward the floor, and the lamp fell through the window, right at the window, and caught the curtains on fire. Here comes this other policeman trying to beat it out with his coat. He's beating, and he fell through the plate glass window right on top of old Blue. Scared old Blue so bad, he run out in the middle of the street where the big old Cadillac was coming down. The Cadillac swerved to miss the dog and run right in the back of both of the police cars and totaled both of them. My neighbor across the street seen the fire. He called the local fire department. Probably the only good thing done that night. Here they come. They get about a half a block of our house. They start raising a ladder. Not the telephone service and power service for 8-block area, plumb out. But they managed to get the fire out. You know, time's got a way of curing about everything. In about a few months, policemen got us some new cars. We got our house fixed. Old Blue come back home. My neighbor and I, we got out of the hospital, even though I was in a cast. I was sitting there on the couch watching TV one night. My wife come there and sat there beside him. We was all hugged up watching TV. And you know when a weather channel comes on right below the news or something, it says, weather warning, frost warning tonight. If you got any house plants out, you better get them in. My wife looked at me, she said, you think I need to get them plants in? I said, say what? Yeah, I'm going to get them in. Folks, that's why she was my first wife. Now, I'm going to tell you about the biggest, the meanest catfish in PD River. Some call him old Whiskers, but most call him the devil himself. You see, when I was growing up, and maybe some of y'all, we didn't have always fancy fishing poles like they got today. We lived on a farm, and we liked to fish when we had time, but when we went fishing, we'd go out to the barn, get us some nails or nuts for weights, and we had old cigar box with rusty hooks in it, and a big old round black roll of nylon line. And then we'd go down to the river, and we'd take us and cut down them old bamboo reeds for poles and dig us some Georgia wigglers right on the side of the bank. One day I was chopping some corn there behind the barn, and my friend Bubba, he come by there about 10 o'clock. He said, Jay, he was all excited. He said, I was over the river a while ago. He said, you know that big rain that had up the river? I said, yeah, we didn't get but a few drops. They must have had a flood because there's logs floating down that river as big as I am. So them catfish will bite this evening. I said, you meet me here about 1 o'clock and we'll go. Well, I went and finished chopping the corn, went and meet me, bite lunch, and come back. He was there about 1 o'clock. We get all our stuff, and we go down to the river, and we chop us down 2 or 3 of them bamboo cane poles, and dug us some Georgia wigglers, and we start up at the edge of the river. Back then, they was paths run parallel with the river, and they was smooth as the babies behind. I don't know where the buffalo, the Indians, or whatever made them, but you could just walk right beside the river just like you walk on this floor. And back then, people would take axes or bush axes and cut fishing holes right along the river where they could see the snakes or see to throw out the fish and everything. But we come to the first fishing hole, and there was our neighbor, Catfish John. He done sat right up there fishing. Ain't nobody like to fish better than us, no catfish did. I said, John, you caught anything yet? Well, sir, I've caught enough to make the pan stink, but says, I ain't caught a whiskers yet. Let me tell you a little bit more about whiskers. Whiskers is a legend down on the PD. Old folks said that's the reason the river's so deep. He done dredged it right out. Said it had eyes as big as the sun, had horns as big as trees, and a mouth big enough to swallow a cow. A lot of people had hung on Whiskers, but nobody had ever put him on the bank. We got through talking with John. We want to go catch us some catfish. We go up the river about 30 yards, and I put me a line on there, put me a hook with a big old gob of Georgia wigglers. And I started putting mine around a willow tree there in the bank, just working around. All of a sudden, I got me a big bite. Oh, it was me and him, and I throwed him out. Won't no fish. It was an eel about this long. And if you ever caught one of them eels, them the dirtiest, nastiest thing. You don't want them on your clothes. They won't bite you, but they're dirty. So I threw the eel and pole all up on that willow tree, got me another pole. That old eel, he couldn't be still. He wrapped himself around that willow tree and was dangling there in the water about 6 inches, about like that right there. We won't pay on that eel no mind. We was catching catfish. About 10 minutes, them catfish just cut off. Wouldn't bite another lick. I said, wonder what happened. By that time, we heard John down the river. Boy, look out, John. Look, there's something big headed y'all way. Look. And I looked out there. Here comes the biggest wave of water I've ever seen in my life. Bigger than any wave I ever seen at the beach. We threw our pole down and run. Got behind a tree. About 5 minutes, curiosity got the best of me. I peeked around. And then I seen it rising up out of the river with this monster of a catfish. He had eyes as big as the sun, horns as big as trees, and a mouth big enough to swallow a cow. He just engulfed that eel and settled back down in the river. Ooh. I said, that line won't never hold that big fish. By that time, John come in and said, what you boys got out there? I said, John, it's the biggest fish I've ever laid my eyes on. He said, just try to get him in. We tried pulling on that black line. Blood was coming out of our hand. We couldn't do nothing with that big fish. John said, I've got myself an idea. I said, what is it? He said, you know, my brother Ben, him and his mule Pat, they down there plowing in the lower 40. I'm going to get that mule and we're going to pull that catfish out of that river. I said, well, go get him. Well, before they get back, let me tell you a little bit about Ben and Pat. Ben's had Pat probably 25, 26 years. And you know where it's a person or animal or what, but when you stay together that long, you kind of favor. Both of them get a little gray, you know, a little white around the mouth and everything. And another thing about old Ben, now he couldn't help this. We don't pick at nobody, but he couldn't help it. But when he get excited, he starts stuttering a little bit. He couldn't help it. That's just the way he was. Well, it wasn't long. Here come John leading old Pat by the bridle up there. And Ben had the single tree, you know, that's what you hooked to the plow, and had a big rope over his arm. And I could tell that Ben was already excited. He said, you think you boy got old whisker tie? I said, Ben, it's the biggest fish I've ever laid my eyes on. You think Pat can pull him in? Oh. Pat could outpull two tractors. All right, hook her up. We hooked that rope to that single tree on behind that mule, tied a big knot in that willow tree. Ben got a hold of Pat, brother. Come on, Pat. Come on, girl. She took 3 or 4 steps. You could just feel the harness tightening up. All of a sudden, that trace chain started coming in. Ben said, cut that tree down now, boy. I started cutting on that tree. I said, all right, Ben. One more cut's going to get this tree. Come on, Pat. Come on. One more step. Pat took about 1 step, and that trace chain just shaking. It was as tight as the banjo string. He said, cut that tree down now, boy. I hit that tree one more time, that axe, and that tree fell in the water. Pow! Scared that fish. That fish took off down the river and was pulling that mule in there with him. Ben said, Lord have mercy. He going to pull my mule. He said, come on, help me, boy. Help me. We all got a hold of that bridle. We was pulling. And between us and that fish, we like to stretch that mule half in two. Sure enough. But all of a sudden, that bridle broke. We ended over in the bushes. And I'll be doggone if that catfish didn't pull that mule right in that water. Ben said, Lord have mercy, they go Pat down the river. Lord have mercy. The last thing we seen of old Pat was her 2 ears headed toward Charles, South Carolina. Folks, the moral of this story is, if you come down and you go fishing in P.D. River and you hang something you can't get in, get something bigger than a mule. Old Whiskers, he's still in that river. Thank y'all.